Chapter 11. Real Estate Investing. How to turn $10,000 into millions using other people's money. Investing in real estate is not just an exceptional way to diversify your investment portfolio and risk. In many ways, real estate is a better investment than stocks because you can use mortgage loans to buy a property. And there are a ton of tax advantages, like the ability to keep $500,000 in tax-free profit from the sale of your primary home. There are many other cash flow and tax advantages that we'll cover in this chapter that make real estate such an amazing investment. Real estate investing is seriously legit, incredible, actually. You've already learned how house hacking can help you to significantly, if not completely, eliminate your biggest expense. But you can actually go a lot further than owning a home, getting free rent, and earning an extra couple $1,000 per month. You can put a 3% down payment on your first home and turn it into a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio within a few years. You can buy and flip properties for tax-free profits, or you can buy and hold properties, turning your rentals into a consistent cash flow that covers your living expenses and generates enough money to pay down your mortgages or to invest in more properties. And you can use real estate to generate enough consistent cash flow to cover your living expenses for the rest of your life. Many investors have used real estate as their primary way to achieve financial independence in 5 years or less. Here's the blueprint, the case for real estate. It's important to remember that real estate investing carries risk and that real estate values, just like stock values, are never guaranteed to go up. In fact, in some cases the value of real estate can actually drop a lot. It wasn't that long ago that we lived through a real estate crisis in which more than 10 million homeowners in the United States were left underwater, meaning they owed more on their mortgages than their homes were worth. But the main reason that happened was because banks were giving too many mortgages to people who couldn't afford them. In fact, real estate investing is historically less volatile than stock market investing, and the housing market has recovered exceptionally well since its low in 2010. Home prices appreciated an average of 43% nationally between 2010 and 2016. Appreciation is typically created by a neighborhood's improving or increasing in demand, or through renovations done on a home, such as an addition or a kitchen remodel. Property appreciation is especially high in cities. Globally, 54% of the population lives in cities, and this is projected to increase to 66% by 2050. As you've already learned, historically the stock market has compounded, after being adjusted for inflation and dividends, at about 7% per year. Real estate, by contrast, appreciates between 3 and 5% on average per year. Upon first glance, therefore, real estate doesn't seem like a better strategy than plain old investing in stocks, but real estate has a few advantages that stocks don't. First, you can buy properties using someone else's money. And as you learned earlier, you can also house hack by getting renters to offset, completely cover, or even pay you more money than your monthly mortgage payment. You can also make a lot of money, sometimes quickly, buying and selling properties as a side hustle. This can put some money in your pocket, but the real value in flipping is that you can use the profits to invest in more properties without paying taxes, using what's known as a 1031 exchange. A 1031 exchange is a tax law that allows you to use the profits from the sale of your investment property to buy a new investment property and defer taxes on the profit into the future. You can do 1031 exchanges forever by keeping your real estate profits invested in property. You can't do that with stocks. And when you die, your tax liability from any 1031 exchanges disappears for your heirs. This is a massive advantage for real estate investing over stock investing. When you invest in stocks, your portfolio grows only in proportion to the money you invested and any compounded gains. With real estate, your investment grows as the property increases in value, and since you don't have to put up all of the money up front, you can make your money grow much quicker. This is called leverage, and when you use it responsibly, you can make a lot of money using other people's money. Yes, you have to pay the bank back, but the point is, you don't need more money to make the same return. If you put $10,000 down up front, you'll actually make an even higher return on your investment than you would if you put down $100,000 up front. For example, a $10,000 down payment on a $200,000 home that appreciates to $250,000 in value created a $50,000 or a 5 times or a 400% return on your original $10,000 down payment. If you put down $100,000 on the $200,000 property and it goes up to $250,000 in value, you would have returned only 50% of your $100,000 investment. A 50% return is a lot less than a 400% return. So in most cases, your ROI is actually higher the lower your down payment, because you are putting down less of your own money but capturing all of the gains. This is one of the main reasons real estate investing can be so much more powerful than stock investing. Say you have $10,000 to invest. You can buy $10,000 in stock with that money, or you could put a $10,000 down payment on a home. Let's say you put $10,000 in the stock market that grows 30% over the next 3 years. That $10,000 in stock is now worth $13,000, and even after you factor in the 10% capital gains tax on the growth, you're still left with $12,700, an amazing return in only 3 years. But if you use that $10,000 to put a 5% down payment on a $200,000 home that appreciates $50,000 in value over 3 years, then your $10,000 down payment has now generated at least $50,000 in profit. As a bonus, if the home is your primary residence, you won't pay any taxes on that $50,000. You can then use that profit for a down payment on another property or even multiple properties, all tax-free. Another huge benefit of buying real estate using a mortgage is that all of the interest on up to a $750,000 mortgage on your primary and secondary residences is tax deductible. In addition to the mortgage tax deduction, you can also deduct up to $10,000 in property and state taxes from your federal tax return. As the current tax bill stands, this deduction is expected to increase to cover the interest on a mortgage of up to $1 million by the year 2026. Many people think they need a huge down payment or that they need to commit to stay in a home for at least 5 years for a real estate investment to be worth it. But neither of those is true. You can buy your first property with a down payment of as little as 1 to 5%, which for a $200,000 home is between $2,000 and $10,000. And in most cities in the United States, the rent-to-buy break-even point is 2.1 years. This means if you plan to live in a home for at least 2.1 years, it often makes sense for you to buy it. While there are many decent rent-to-buy calculators, the best two I've found are by the New York Times and Zillow. If you buy a home, you can rent out the extra rooms to cover some of the mortgage or even make more than the mortgage. As the rent you charge your roommates or tenants goes up and the property appreciates, you can invest the extra cash into a new property. Within a few years you could have 5 or more properties, all generating cash flow and appreciating in value, and your equity ownership will increase as you use your rental income to pay down the mortgages. Buying a property can be more flexible than renting. You might feel like buying a property means you have to put down roots in a place, but that's an old school mindset you need to get rid of. Investing in real estate is about being creative with how you use your home to both make money and live how you want. In this way, buying a multi-room or multi-unit property can actually give you more flexibility than renting. Since you own the property and you're the landlord, you can always adjust the arrangement over time to best suit your lifestyle. If you want to save the most money and live for free, you can rent out all the rooms and sleep on a couch in the basement. I heard about one property owner who lived in a closet off the kitchen, where you can stay in the smallest room and rent out the bigger rooms or apartments. If you eventually want to upgrade, you can take the nicest room or the nicest unit. And if you end up wanting to move to another property or another city, you can always keep the property for cash flow and let it continue to grow in value. If you get married or have kids and own a duplex or triplex, you can convert it into one large home. Or if you buy a property and don't like living in it after a year, just rent it out to cover the mortgage and find another place to live. Just because you buy a place doesn't mean you're stuck with it. It just means you have an asset that can grow. There are also incredible tax benefits for real estate investors that help you keep more money in your pocket and make it easier to build a real estate portfolio. If you rent out your property, you can deduct tons of expenses, including property taxes, mortgage insurance, repairs, management fees, and any other expenses associated with running and maintaining your rental properties. Not only do these deductions help you save money on taxes, but any improvements you make will help make the property more valuable. One note, if you live in a really expensive area where the property taxes are high, you can't deduct more than $10,000, which means owning a property could get expensive. But for most real estate owners and investors, these tax deductions really add up and make homeownership more affordable by decreasing your tax bill. In addition to these benefits, even though your rental property is likely appreciating, you can actually deduct for depreciation, which allows you to deduct a certain percentage of the price you paid for the structure over a long period for wear and tear. The standard residential deduction is 27.5 years, so you can take the value of the structure and divide it by 27.5. which gives you $7,772, and then you multiply that by your marginal tax rate, which would equal $1,818 that you could deduct every year from your taxes for depreciation. Check out IRS publication 527 to learn more. Another advantage to real estate investing is that properties are tangible assets, so you can take out loans secured by your properties. This gives you access to more cash if you want to refinance or take some of the equity out of your properties to invest in the market or buy more properties. One of the best benefits of cash-out refinancing is that you can take out the money tax-free. This is an amazing way to take cash out of properties that have appreciated without having to sell the property. Then if you really want to make a lot of money, you could refinance that property to take out some of the appreciation and use the cash to buy a second property. Then you can do it again to buy your third, fourth, or fifth property and pretty quickly build a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio. How to buy a home with little money down. In order to buy your first property, you need to save enough for a down payment on a mortgage and then qualify for a mortgage. A mortgage is when a bank or lender lends you money to buy a home. As you've already learned, using other people's money to grow your net worth is one of the biggest advantages of real estate investing. And while it might seem daunting to take out a large loan from a bank or a lender, mortgages can actually be good debt because you are using them to buy a property that can generate cash flow and increase in value. You can also use a mortgage to buy a home that is undervalued, so you are immediately able to acquire more equity than you are paying for. If you have decent credit, you also don't need to put a lot of money down and can likely get away with a 1 to 5% down payment. There are two popular types of mortgages: fixed-rate mortgages, where the interest rate stays the same throughout the term of the loan, and adjustable-rate mortgages, where the rate increases or decreases after a certain period based on certain market factors. The interest rate and the type of mortgage you are able to get from a lender is largely based on your credit score. The higher your credit score, the lower your interest rate will be. Interest rates go up and down based on a number of factors and can vary considerably by lender, so it's essential to get mortgage rate quotes from multiple lenders. When I was shopping for my first mortgage, rates varied by more than 2%, which over the period of a loan can mean paying up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional interest. Shop around for the best mortgage rate you can get. I'd recommend getting quotes from at least 5, if not more, lenders. But you do have to be careful when getting multiple mortgage quotes, because having a bunch of lenders pulling your credit score can lower it, effectively negating the opportunity of shopping for a better rate or even the ability to get a loan. As the first step, before selecting which lenders can pull your credit score, I recommend telling the lender your credit score without giving them your social security number and asking what the estimated mortgage rate would be. They can plug it into their system and give you a close enough range. Then when you find 2 or 3 who give you the lowest quotes, you can take the next step to get a formal quote. While this might sound like a lot of work, it should take only a few hours, and it's worth it to save even a small percentage on your mortgage interest rate. That few hours could save you tens of thousands of dollars in potential interest payments on your loan. Fixed-rate mortgages typically come in 15-year and 30-year time horizons. The longer the time horizon, the lower your monthly payment, but the more interest you will pay. Interest rates are also typically higher for 30-year mortgages, since the bank is lending you money for a longer period of time and therefore is taking on more risk of default. Most Americans have a 30-year mortgage and for the first few years end up paying a lot of interest, about 80% of their total payments. If you can afford the larger monthly payment, opt for a 15-year mortgage instead, since you will pay less money in upfront interest whether you plan to keep the property for just a few years or longer. You can still get a 15-year mortgage with as little as a 3% down payment in some markets, so you don't need to use a lot of your cash to get a better interest rate on a 15-year mortgage than a 30-year mortgage. Adjustable rate mortgages are riskier because your interest rate is fixed for only a defined period of time, after which it could go up or down depending on the current interest rates in the market. While getting an ARM is more like a gamble since there is no way to predict where interest rates will be in 5 years, it can be a really smart decision if you can get a good rate and plan to sell your home in 5 years or less. This way you end up paying a lot less in interest during the short period you have the loan before you sell. No matter what type of mortgage you select, you don't necessarily have to stay locked in for the entire period. You can always refinance the loan with either the same or a different lender in order to get a lower rate. If rates drop, you could reduce the amount you're paying in interest, or you could switch from a 15-year to a 30-year loan and reduce your monthly payment. As previously mentioned, another benefit of refinancing is that if you have some equity in the property and want to keep building your real estate investments, you can often take cash out and use that money to buy another property. However, because it costs money to refinance, it really makes sense to refinance only if you can recoup the expense of refinancing by paying less in interest over the time you plan to live in the home. It likely doesn't make sense to refinance if you are going to live in the home for less than 3 to 5 years, but could save you a lot in interest payments if you plan to live in the home or hold the mortgage while renting the property for 5+ years. If you are considering refinancing, ask your potential lender to do a break-even calculation as a starting point to evaluate whether it's worth it. How much home can you actually afford? The costs of homeownership can really add up, but they shouldn't scare you. One popular piece of advice is that your monthly mortgage payment, plus taxes and any assessments, shouldn't be more than 40% of your monthly take-home pay. While I am an aggressive investor, 40% in my opinion is too high a percentage. I think it should be 30% or less to be safe. You don't want to be what's known as house poor, when most of your take-home pay goes to your mortgage and you don't have any money left over to invest or spend on your life. No matter how much you love the home, it's not worth putting all of your money into it. If you do, you are taking a huge risk that can cost you not only a lot of money but also your home. You should also make sure you have a secure job or other ways to make consistent income. The way you do this is by buying a house you can actually afford, not one your bank or lender says you can afford. In most cases, if you have a decent credit score, you will be approved for a mortgage larger than you should take out. The bank wants to lend you as much money as they can so they can make as much as they can in interest on the debt, but that doesn't help you in the long run. Don't buy it. Take out as small a mortgage as you need to buy a property where the mortgage payment is less than 30% of your monthly income. Also, keep in mind the other costs involved in home buying and ongoing homeownership. Your mortgage payment is just what you owe the bank and doesn't include property taxes and assessments. The costs can really add up, so it's important to be very clear on exactly what you will be paying each month for your property. Below is an example of the cost breakdown for buying a $300,000 condo in Chicago. No matter how much money you make, some cities or places just aren't very affordable, so you either need to make a lot of money or get creative. For example, you can put a low down payment on your home or get a few roommates to help you pay or fully cover your mortgage. In some cities like New York, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and others, it's really expensive to buy properties. But once you start making more money, or if you can get some of your friends together to buy a property or get some money from your parents, they can be great places to invest in real estate because property there tends to appreciate quickly. If you find a property that you've determined is a great value in a growing real estate market and you don't have enough cash, or you can get a mortgage rate below 4 or 5%, and you believe you can get a higher return investing your money, then you don't need to put a 20% down payment on the home. It's a common myth that you need to put 20% down, which you definitely don't, and if you wait too long, you might miss out on a great property and investment opportunity. A guy I know lives in Los Angeles and has been saving for a 20% down payment for the past 4 years. During that time, real estate has skyrocketed in Los Angeles and he is no longer able to afford a home in the neighborhood he originally wanted to live in. But if he had put down 3% on a home in that neighborhood 4 years ago, he would have been able to buy into the market immediately, live in a home he wanted, and benefit from the appreciation. And based on the data I've seen, the appreciation is tremendous. Any of the properties he was looking at could have easily gone up in value $400,000 to $500,000 in that time. So not only is he still renting, but he lost the opportunity to buy a home and make a ton of money. Now he's completely priced out of the market, all because he wanted to wait for a 20% down payment. Note that you can put down less than a 20% down payment only on the home that is considered your primary residence. Any investment property that you don't live in will likely require a 20 to 25% down payment. For your primary residence, if you can get a mortgage rate lower than 5%, you're likely better off keeping the cash you would typically use for a down payment invested in stocks and using the bank's money to buy an appreciating property. If your mortgage rate is higher than 5%, then you are better off putting down as close to 20% as you can. But no matter what, don't put down a 20% down payment if you are going to be cash poor or could get a much higher return in the market. Also, never use more than 30% of your net worth for any down payment on a property. When you put down less than 20%, you have to pay something called private mortgage insurance, which is simply insurance for the mortgage lender if you default on your mortgage so the bank doesn't lose money on their investment. PMI is typically $75 to $150 per month for a loan up to $300,000, but it does fluctuate based on the size of your loan, your credit score, and your down payment. But PMI is no big deal and worth it to buy a property with less than 20% down, as long as you can afford it. You can get rid of PMI by having at least 20% equity ownership in the property. You can achieve this 4 different ways. 1. The property can appreciate to the point where your current investment is worth 20% of the total value. 2. You can make repairs or upgrades on the property that increases its value so you now have 20% equity. 3. You can refinance to get a new mortgage and get an appraisal that shows you own 20%. 4. You can pay down the mortgage more quickly than necessary until you own 20%. Depending on your market, this might take a few years, but it might be worth paying a little more each month to be able to put down less than 20% to buy into the market or get a higher return on your investment elsewhere. If you are a first-time home buyer, you should definitely check with your city or county to see if they have any first-time home buyer credit programs. For example, Chicago offers several programs for first-time home buyers, including one that covers up to 2% of a down payment. Don't leave money on the table. Always check to see if there are programs you can take advantage of. When I bought my first home in Chicago, I put down 5% and got a small first-time home buyer grant. If I had waited until I had saved a 20% down payment, it would have taken me at least another year, and not only would I have missed out on the exact property I wanted, but the market would have been about 20% more expensive. While that type of rapid appreciation can be rare, it often makes a lot of sense to put down a low down payment, get into the market quickly, and use any extra cash you could have otherwise put toward your down payment to invest in something earning a higher return than your mortgage interest rate. In the past 5 years, my property has appreciated over $250,000, so had I waited until I had the 20% down payment, I would have missed out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential gains. Did I know my property was going to appreciate so much? Of course not. In many ways, I got lucky, but I did know that the market was down in Chicago, so I knew I could find a good deal. I bought the property in the middle of winter when prices are typically lower in Chicago, and I bought a unique property. It has a good vibe. If you get a good mortgage interest rate with good terms, it can be pretty easy to use a bank's money to buy and hold properties. For example, I have a 2.625% 15-year fixed mortgage, which is really low. I have been able to get a much higher return investing the cash I would have used to pay off my mortgage by putting it into the stock market. Since the stock market has been on a tear over the past year, that money has returned 23%. Since my mortgage rate is so low, I'm going to keep my extra cash invested instead of paying off my mortgage early. However, if I did decide to retire and live solely off my investment income, then I would likely pay off the mortgage entirely. Once again, it comes down to making the right mathematical decision. One of the reasons this has been possible is because mortgage rates have been at historic lows and stocks have absolutely crushed it over the past 8 years. Back in the 1980s, when mortgage rates were 10 to 12%, it would have made more sense to pay off a mortgage as quickly as possible, since other investments were unlikely to return that much. 2 ways to invest in real estate. There are 2 primary ways to invest in real estate. You can buy and sell properties, or buy and hold them for the long term. While the primary focus of this chapter is buying and holding real estate, let's look at how both strategies can help you hit your number in different ways. Buying and flipping properties means you buy a property and then try to sell it within a few years. Sometimes the homes need repairs and sometimes they don't, but the strategy is to look for values. Homes that are worth more than you pay for them or could be worth a lot more with some repairs. Flipping can be a great side hustle, and there are deals to be found in almost any city or town. While in some cities deals are tougher to find because so many other flippers are looking for them. 2. You just have to keep hunting and be ready to buy when you find one. Buying and flipping homes can help you make some extra money that you can then use to either buy more properties or add to your stock investments. As you've already learned, because of the 1031 exchange rule, you can keep rolling over your profits tax-free by using them to buy new properties. Or you can flip your way into larger and larger homes so you can buy your dream home. You can also flip your way into buying a multi-unit property or apartment building that you can then hold and rent out. Just like buying and holding stock for the long term, buying and holding real estate is a more effective strategy than flipping to help you reach financial independence faster, since you can build up a portfolio that generates consistent monthly cash flow through rental income that can cover your mortgage debt and monthly expenses, as well as have a portfolio of assets that will also appreciate over time. You can get that with stocks. You can also deduct most of the interest and many of the expenses of owning rental properties, making things like upgrades, repairs, and management expenses tax deductible. When it comes to hitting your number as soon as possible, cash flow is more important than appreciation. Also, cash flow is more reliable than appreciation, since either your tenants pay their rent or you evict them. But appreciation is based on many factors like supply and demand that you can't really control. Depending on your number and monthly expenses, you probably don't have to own many properties to generate enough cash flow from rental payments to cover your monthly expenses. Say you need $60,000 to live each year, which is $5,000 per month. To figure out your monthly rental income target, you want to add at least 25% to your expected monthly expenses to account for the expenses required to manage a rental, like repairs and the cost of a management company if you use one. To meet your monthly expenses, you would need enough properties to generate in rental income per month. This might be one property that generates $6,250 per month or 5 properties that generate $1,250 each per month. You can also accomplish this as you increase the rent on your properties. Typically, rents increase between 3 and 5% per year in most U.S. markets, but can increase even more if the neighborhood is in demand. Realistically, you can charge as much as someone is willing to pay. Below is an example breakdown of how buying just 5 properties over 10 years could generate $6,250 per month in cash flow and a ton of equity, appreciation that increases your net worth. In this example, you've acquired 5 properties over the past 10 years, and because your rental income on all the properties increases, so does your monthly cash flow. Also, as the values of the properties increase and your total debt decreases, then your equity, ownership increases. And this is in just 10 years. If you keep holding the property, both your rental income and equity, ownership will continue to grow. If you decide you want to cash out in the future, you could sell your properties and cash in on the equity, ownership appreciation. But a better long-term strategy would be to keep your properties and let both your rental income and equity grow forever. With this example, if you can buy more than 5 properties or buy homes that go up more in value, you can hit the monthly cash flow target and thus financial independence a lot faster. While 5 properties might sound like a lot, most people can easily manage 5 properties as a side hustle that requires less than 5 hours of their time per week. Or you can outsource the work by finding a good management company and handyman pretty easily. Real estate investing is scalable and gives you a lot of flexibility, so you can buy as many properties as you want depending on how much money you want to make and how much time you want to spend managing them. While there are many real estate investors who end up turning their real estate side hustle into a full-time job, you can align your own investment strategy with your desired lifestyle. If you don't want to put in the time, you can pretty easily find a management company who will charge 7 to 10% of the monthly rent to manage the property. With a good management company, you don't even have to live in the same city as your properties. Many real estate investors don't. You could even live in Bali and easily generate passive income from your real estate properties in the United States. As you've already learned, no one can predict the stock market or the housing market. Anyone who tells you he can is blowing smoke. But just like stocks, you can buy properties that are better values and have a better chance at appreciating. For example, properties by colleges are good investments, since students need places to live, as are unique or historic properties that have a lot of character in a desirable area or properties in a popular vacation destination. Typically, the more desirable a property is, the more it's going to go up in value, or at least hold its value when the market is soft. Your first home purchase is one of the most important investment decisions you will make in your life, and if you take just a little extra time to find the right property at the right price, you could make a lot of money quickly as the rent and property go up in value. Whether you live in the city or the country, there are always deals to be found. While it might seem daunting at first, real estate investing, like stock investing, isn't that complicated. But also, just like stock investing, you should invest only in what you understand and take only as much risk as you can tolerate. The more you know about the market and the neighborhoods, the better an investor you will be. You can either get this market knowledge yourself by keeping an eye on prices online and looking at properties in your target neighborhoods, or you can outsource it and work with a realtor who knows the neighborhoods and scouts deals for you. As you gain more experience, you can start branching out into buying 2- and 3-family homes, or even entire apartment buildings. While we won't get into buying entire apartment buildings in this chapter, and that might sound crazy to you, it's actually a lot easier than you think. In Chicago, you can find 6-unit apartment buildings for about $1 million, which you can buy with a down payment of between 15 and 30%. Note that any building with more than 4 units is considered a commercial building and will require a commercial property loan. But as long as the rental income can cover the mortgage, not only will the mortgage be easier to get, but you can start generating rental income and have an appreciating asset. Scaling your real estate investing by getting investors. If you happen to really like investing in real estate, one of the fastest ways to scale your own real estate business is by taking on what are known as joint venture partners. These are other real estate investors who will invest in you and your properties. There are 3 big advantages to partnering up with another real estate investor. First, you will often be able to get more favorable lending terms outside of banks. Second, an experienced real estate investor who invests is likely going to teach you a lot and be able to better respond to changes in the market. If you are investing in real estate consistently, shifts in the market can change how you should be investing in properties. For example, if properties get too expensive in your market, then you might need to start looking for homes to rehab. Third, experienced real estate investors are going to have a good team around them and access to better resources, like repairmen, inspectors, property managers, lawyers, and other people to help with your own real estate investments. If they invest in you, they are going to bring their resources to the table so they can protect and get the best return on their investment. While you can't predict or control property appreciation with real estate investing, you can control things like your costs and cash flow. Working with an experienced real estate partner makes it easier to do both and grow your business faster. If you do decide to look for a real estate investing partner, always look for someone who has been investing in real estate longer and has more properties than you. Try to work with the most experienced investor you can. But in order to get an investor, you'll need to have a proven track record of successfully investing in properties that are appreciating and generating increasing cash flow. Hopefully, you are convinced to go out and buy your first property and start making money investing in real estate. As a wise investor once said, you make money when you buy a property, not when you sell it. You want to try to find the best deal on a property you can. Here are some tips to increase your chances of finding a great investment property. 9 tips to help you find an amazing investment property. 1. Develop real estate investing criteria to follow. What type of properties do you want to invest in, and in what neighborhoods? Setting investment criteria will help you focus and become an expert in specific properties and neighborhoods, which will make it much easier to spot a deal. Most successful investors stick within their range and invest only in what they understand. Whether you invest in studios, single-family homes, apartment buildings, mobile homes, commercial real estate, or even parking spots, it's a lot easier if you have a niche and stick within your comfort zone. 2. Set a budget and get pre-approved for a mortgage or loan. I recommend you get pre-approved for a mortgage before you start shopping for properties so you know how much you can spend. Plus, pre-approval signals to realtors that you are serious about buying and will make it easy to buy a property quickly once you find one you love. Getting pre-approved is simple to do by submitting some paperwork to lenders, who will approve you for a certain amount of money. Get quotes from at least 4 different lenders so you can find the best mortgage rate. 3. Look for properties that generate immediate positive cash flow and have high rent and appreciation potential. You should only buy investment properties that immediately generate positive cash flow. It doesn't make any sense to buy an investment property if you are losing money on it right after you buy it. While it doesn't work in all markets, one popular strategy real estate investors use to find properties that will immediately generate positive cash flow is what's known as the 1% rule. You want to look for properties where the anticipated monthly rent is at least 1% of the property sale price. For example, if a property is listed for $200,000 and you can get $2,000 a month in rent for the place, then it passes the 1% rule. If you can't get that much, then your rental income likely won't cover the mortgage payment and necessary expenses, which are typically less than 1%. To figure out what you can get in rent, look online to see what similar units in the neighborhood are renting for. If you want to be more conservative, you can shoot for 2% instead, but somewhere between 1 and 2% is a good place to start. You should also buy a rental that at least generates the cash required to cover the mortgage payments, plus an additional 10 to 20% to cover the expenses and to provide an additional cushion if the apartment sits unrented for a few months. You also want to try to buy a property that has the highest potential to increase in value and in a neighborhood where rents are likely to increase. Look for neighborhoods where rents are still affordable but because of their proximity to amenities, city centers, or universities have a higher chance of going up. Look for neighborhoods in transition or in which there are a lot of elderly sellers and the neighborhood is set for an influx of younger buyers and families. Follow the artists, musicians, hipsters, and students who often flock to cool neighborhoods and unique properties that in the next 5 years will appreciate the most. The cycle in many places is pretty predictable. Buy properties where others will want to live in 5 years or, if you can afford it, in neighborhoods that will likely always increase in demand, like Manhattan in New York, Venice in Los Angeles, or North Beach in San Francisco. 4. Find an amazing realtor who does the hard work for you. No matter how much time you spend hunting for real estate deals, a great realtor is an invaluable asset. They'll know the market, understand your criteria, and know a deal when they see one. But while there are tons of realtors, in my experience there are very few great ones. A great one is one who looks out for a deal for you, not just for themselves. Finding a great realtor is like finding a great doctor. You want to find someone you vibe with and who has your best interests in mind. Start by looking at realtor reviews on sites like Zillow and set up a few meetings. Most realtors will be eager to meet with a potential buyer. Come prepared with a list of questions and ask them to tell you about 2 or 3 recent real estate investment deals they brokered for clients. Ask specifically about the investment deals they brokered and how well past client investments have done, not just sales. 5. Hunt when everyone else isn't. A majority of homes are bought and sold during the spring months, but this is also when prices are the highest. One way to find a great deal is to look when no one else is looking, like the winter in a city where it's cold in that season. Homes that are bought in October through December appreciate more than homes bought at any other time of the year because there is less competition, which keeps the sale price relatively low. Also, sometimes when people are selling a property at a less desirable time of the year, they might be more desperate to sell and therefore more willing to give you a deal. Another great time to buy is at the end of the year, when both people and banks are interested in getting a home off their books. 6. Look for foreclosures or short sales. Foreclosures are properties in which the owner can no longer pay the mortgage, so the bank is now selling it. You can find great foreclosure deals if you are patient, but also keep in mind that some foreclosures might be in rough shape. Sometimes if a property is super cheap, there's a reason for it, so always invest in a thorough inspection. A short sale is when a lender sells a property they own for a loss to get it off their books. Since the bank owns it, a property can take a long time to close, but it can be worth the effort. It doesn't hurt to make an offer. You can find foreclosures and short sales listed on websites like Zillow or Trulia or through a real estate agent. Just be ready to move quickly since the good deals go fast. 7. Test drive the neighborhood. An easy way to test drive a neighborhood is to rent a nearby apartment or home on a home-sharing website like Airbnb or VRBO. What's the neighborhood like on the weekends? In the evenings? How easy is it to walk to things? Taking a look at the property a few times won't give you these answers. Whether you are buying your primary residence or a rental property, you should always test drive the neighborhood. If you like living there, then other people will, too. Always try to bring a friend, family member, or partner with you for a second or third opinion. 8. Find an experienced home inspector. No matter how amazing a home looks, there is always going to be something wrong with it, and sellers aren't required to let you know what that is. This is why it's critical to get an inspection of any property you want to buy. Not all home inspectors are created equal. In fact, anyone can market themselves as a home inspector without any credentials. You should do more due diligence than a simple Google search when looking for a home inspector. Find a home inspector who has been at it for a long time and ask to see a sample report of a recent inspection they did. Not all home inspectors look at everything that should be inspected before you buy a home. For example, many don't typically look for bugs, but they should. Also make sure that you can go along for the inspection and have the inspector specifically point out what's wrong. Ask as many questions as you can because the last thing you want is to discover an expensive repair that needs to be done after you buy a home. You should even go so far as to make your offer contingent on inspection, so you can back out if you find something that you don't like. Or at least be prepared to make a reduced offer based on any problems you'll need to fix. Many sellers will be willing to negotiate, especially if you find some big repairs that are required. 9. Be prepared to walk away from a deal. There are more bad real estate deals than good ones, so just as with buying and selling stocks, you need to control your emotions. Far too many people get emotional when buying real estate. But you need to be prepared to look for the best investment property you can and always be ready to walk away from a deal if it doesn't meet your investing property criteria. If it's too expensive, it needs too many repairs, or you just feel that it's not right. A deal isn't closed until you sign on the dotted line, so don't be afraid to walk away if you feel it's the best thing to do. Just like any type of investing, real estate investing certainly has its risks. But if you follow these principles, make a down payment you can afford, and use house hacking to reduce the cost of owning a home, you can minimize the risk. No matter how large you want to build your real estate portfolio, real estate investing will give you a ton of flexibility, help you make a lot more money, and fast-track your financial independence. Recap. 1. Investing in real estate is more than an exceptional way to diversify your investment portfolio and risk. In many ways, real estate is a better investment than stocks because it appreciates more quickly, and therefore so will your money. 2. When you invest in stocks, your portfolio grows only in proportion to the money you invested and any compounded gains. With real estate, your investment grows as the property increases in value, and since you don't have to put up all of the money up front, you can make your money grow much quicker. 3. In order to buy your first property, you need to save enough for a down payment on a mortgage and then qualify for a mortgage. A mortgage is when a bank or lender lends you money to buy a home. 4. One popular piece of advice is that your monthly mortgage payment, plus taxes and any assessments, shouldn't be more than 40% of your monthly take-home pay. While I am an aggressive investor, 40% in my opinion is too high a percentage. I think it should be 30% or less to be safe. 5. There are two primary ways to invest in real estate. You can buy and sell property, or buy and hold it for the long term. 6. If you happen to really like investing in real estate, one of the fastest ways to scale your own real estate business is by taking on what are known as joint venture partners. 7. Here are 9 tips to help find an amazing investment property. Develop real estate investing criteria to follow. Set a budget and get pre-approved for a mortgage or loan. Look for properties that generate immediate positive cash flow and have high rent and appreciation potential. Find an amazing realtor who does the hard work for you. Hunt when everyone else isn't. Look for foreclosures or short sales. Test drive the neighborhood. Find an experienced home inspector. Be prepared to walk away from a deal.